Welcome, fellow confidence crusaders, neuro nerds, and success equalizers. This is your podcast, Real Confidence. I'm your host, Alyssa DeVere, and I'll be sharing a bit of basic brain science, some surprising social secrets, and a touch of tough love. Why? Because I believe confidence is everyone's fundamental right and choice. So let's get to it.
Right.
One of the greatest things about this podcast is I get sometimes to meet really fascinating people that are so riveting to me, and I get to bring them to a wider audience. And today, this is one of those spectacular moments. And so, Jess Sudeall is with me. And Jess, I think, it's kind of funny to acknowledge that we met because I was looking to buy a car. And the more I got to know you and your story landed us here. So thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me and actually acknowledging me and following through in a way that nobody ever has. So that means so much. It really does.
Told you it was going to be a great day, my friends listening on this, because you're in for a heck of a story. I'm going to not do a bio. I want to roll back a little bit. And I want you to tell everyone kind of the moral of the story is you're one of the few, if not only, female senior managers in the car business, and we'll get to that. But it wasn't like you landed there easily. So let's go back a little bit to tell folks a little how you got here.
Okay, so long story short, I ended up going to school to be a math teacher. I was also in a band at the time. Everyone in my family are professors or principals for the most part, and we're in psych that I got into the car business one summer and realized how much I could make. So I'm 41 years old now. This is my 18th year in this business. I sold cars probably about for the first 8 or so years, and then moved, along the ladder up to now where, I became a GSM. I went back to sales manager, and now I'm a director of variable operations, aka director of sales, for Myrac Hyundai, Myrac Chevy, and Genesis of Arlington. And I have yet to meet or hear of a woman in this position that isn't a result in nepotism yet, or an owner that actually started their dealership on their own without getting it from their father or a husband. So I have, I think I know of 3 sales managers and 1 GSM, but at this level, I haven't heard of one yet.
All right. So that on its own, incredible. But we're going to dig a little deeper because when you said your family, they're really high achievers, and you had some pretty low spots in your life before getting here.
Yeah.
So do you mind sharing? First of all, let's talk about your family for a second. Diverse and then some.
Yeah. So my sister went to Harvard with a scholarship. She went to Yale and then Harvard. She is a law professor currently. She was the quickest person of color to get on law review as fast as she did. She graduated high school when she was 16. So she didn't even have her license yet. She skipped 2 years of school. She worked, for many years at the Southern Center for Human Rights, representing minorities on death row, and working 17 hours a day, and from Georgia, driving to Alabama, driving to different states. So she was legitimately working 17 hours a day, making $40,000 for all of those years. She recently got a job offer at Vanderbilt, which is where she's going to start shortly. And, just circumstances in her life. She also was one of the people on the panel that presented Ruth Bader Ginsburg with her humanitarian award, and has like a big, there was a situation where herself and 3 other people of color went through basically getting hit, they were accused of like stealing a vehicle. The 3 friends, she's, light skinned like myself, her 3 friends were very dark skinned. The state trooper said that they stole a car, that they didn't, threw them against the car, put them on the ground. I mean, just did a lot. And I don't know why they didn't tell him they were all at Yale, because that would have stopped everything a lot sooner. Because the moment my sister said it, the guy ran away. That was in court for many, many years, and he kept his job. So, and my sister, she doesn't care about money. I do. I'm money oriented. She's not at all. She wouldn't even have taken a penny. She just wanted justice, and that's it, along with her friends. So that's a little bit of her background. Mine was a completely different story, where I ran away from home at an extremely young age, was in a band, so lived, with multiple people in apartments just to get by. Later on, after that, I ended up being homeless for a long time because I refused to get help from anybody or any friends, because I'm extremely stubborn and wouldn't ask anyone for a penny, and it's just not me. And so when I first became a salesperson, I was living in a homeless shelter and I didn't have anything. And I remember when I put my address on, nobody realized. And I had one outfit that I wore every day for the first 30 days. And after 60 days, I became the #1 salesperson and was at every store for years, always, until I became a sales manager. So that's the short of it.
It's unbelievable. And you referred to your family as color. Can you give?
Mm-hmm.
I can't see you because I'm seeing you on screen, but
Yeah.
your name and all. What does that mean?
So, it's funny, because when I talk about myself as being in this position of director of sales, where no one that I know to date is in this position, that's a woman alone. Forget everything else. So my dad's from Jamaica. My mother, blonde hair, from Queens, Polish, Jewish, and so forget about, when you add this to woman, I can actually probably say that I would dare to say that the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic region may still not have one of me, way beyond the state of Massachusetts, because not only am I a woman, I'm a woman of color, gay, I'm Jewish, and Polish. Am I missing anything else?
Yeah, you're my new best friend because I just adore you. I love that you have all those fantastic intersectionality identities, and you achieve what you achieve. And again, against some of the odds that you put out there, it's spectacular. I have like goosebumps on my goosebumps. I'm going to ask you some tough questions. So, of course, if it's something that you don't want to talk about, always tell me, Alyssa, don't go there. But, there is this obvious question kind of looming. You talk about your sister in particular, a very high achiever and noble, and here you are homeless. You think in retrospect, did that give you confidence? Did it take away from your confidence having a sister like that?
No, I've always been, it's helped me to brag about her in my mind, because as if people will associate me with that.
So
So
what was it
yeah.
that got you to get out of the homeless? Like you're homeless and you're in the same suit for 30 days. Like you said, like what fueled that? I'm just going to do this. Like, how did that happen?
I mean, I had to work. There was money I had to pay. Like, I had to do something. I mean, when I say homeless, like I slept outside in the winter. This is for months, and before that, I spent 1 year in somebody's basement with a cement floor and 3 couch cushions. I didn't shower for probably about half a year. So, and I could have gotten help. I had so many friends growing up, but I just didn't. And also being part of the band was like a whole different lifestyle, being around drugs, drinking, which I still play music every day since, but I had no desire. I ended up leaving that because I would never ever. They were doing pretty well and won Boston's Best Music Award. And I had no interest in people knowing me. I would have zero interest. Not that I'm good enough to be famous, but uh, I didn't have any. I didn't want any attention. So I would write my music for people, but I mean that was really. I mean that was really it. I think I really didn't have any other choice but to work. And
But you could have flipped burgers, right? Like you could have gotten a job that didn't have nearly the need to show up fully present and confident. And look, here's the reality. I just bought a car, as you know, and I experienced a lot of salespeople. And in my definition as a confidence researcher and scientist and all of this, I will say they were not confident. They were a little cocky. In a lot of cases, you know, a lot of fake confidence going on, but
yeah,
you wouldn't have risen to sales management if you didn't do the job well. So how did you show up
yeah,
with confidence? You're like, all right, I slept on the floor, I slept outside, I'm in the same suit, all these things. How did you
yeah.
show up and sell cars?
I think I got into the business just because it was sales and because I knew that I could make money without having finished college. I knew I'd have to go into some a kind of job that would have like, infinite like possibilities. And I've always been, really good. I mean, I've taken leadership classes since, like that stuff is important to me. I had a nonprofit where I developed a curriculum with a few other women. It took us 2 years to write. We presented it in homeless shelters, and men's prisons. That was for 7 years of my nonprofit. And I'm saying that only because I've always had, um, I guess, the desire to, whether it's help people or be the best. But there's always that part of me that's always been there. That's like, I want to be the best at anything I do. And that's part of like an addictive personality, but I've always had confidence in my ability to relate with people, my ability to build rapport very quickly. Um, and despite, not finishing school, I mean, I always did really well with it. I knew that I would be good with numbers. I know how well I connect because of how many people I had growing up, but next to me, it, that's an area that I was always confident in.
Fabulous. Fabulous. I mean, I don't even know the word. I'm like, for the first time, almost speechless here because I just, your story is so, it's almost hard to believe in ways that like, because I can't relate to any of it, but I do know that the kind of work that you chose to do is not for somebody who is weak in stomach, let alone weak in
No,
confidence. So here you are, you start selling, you're in a male dominated environment to say the least, and you're managing other male people now.
yeah,
So, talk to me, like, what do you do on a daily basis? Like, do you ever go backwards and go, I was the homeless girl? Or you're like, you know what? I got this.
no, I don't think about that anymore at all. I don't really even, yeah, I don't identify with it. Same with like being gay. I don't really think about it. It's not like a big part of identifying myself. Like, unless I talk about it or I think back. I mean, even when I was in sales, the kind of this business is so antiquated. I mean, archaic. The first boss I had at that dealership, that first one, um, I went to go talk to the customer. It was my first day, and I didn't know how to open the door because I didn't know where the keys were to show it to them. I had no clue because it was my first day. They just threw me out there because there's no training in this business, and there certainly wasn't 18 years ago or even now. Like real training, great training. And I went into his office and I said, "Can we give him an idea of like what numbers would look like?" He took the piece of paper that I had with their information and how much down, whatever. He ripped it up, he threw it at me and said, "You don't ever come into my office without a credit card." Commitment. So the type of people that I've had to deal with through the years, um, I always was number one in sales with wherever I went, but just because I may have been the best salesperson, that doesn't always make the best manager. And um, and yeah, I mean, even back then, especially because people think I'm white sometimes. So when they don't know, I mean, like the racism, I've had sales meetings with general managers called a guy a faggot, called a guy fat. These are at multiple stores. Anti-Semitism, like the level of which, because this business is so antiquated, nothing has changed in the 18 years in terms of women. The other day someone was talking about, well, women own more businesses now, and women of color. And yeah, sure, probably not as much, I mean, not as much as they should, but nobody's ever looked at this business, which is one of the biggest industries. Like it's any person's second biggest financial decision they're going to make in their life. But the car business is massive. And we just don't really look at it. And the managers I worked with, I got so used to, even as a manager, working with people that were racist, homophobic, I mean, on a regular basis, even in front of me. So you grow really, really thick skin in this. Extremely. I had to prove myself over and over and over and over again. And there's also a lot more that comes with it. Whether it's HR related, I've been through, I mean, I could give you a few examples, but I think I may be going, really long run on sentence here. So
Well, yeah, yeah. Wow. Whew. Um, I, I have almost like a fondness for shopping for cars because it's a really great study for me and people's confidence, right? Like the salespeople. And I go out of my way to dress down. I walk in, I'm this kind of like crazy haired woman, and I just watch what happens, right? And even the female salespeople that I dealt with were pretty gross, to be honest with you. Pretty gross. And what I mean by that, insulting, to a point where like I look at them and I smile and I'm like, you made so many biased assumptions about me. You don't know anything about me, girl, right? Like, but at the same time, you give me hope because you've kind of cracked a hole, and in some of this, and maybe there will be some change in the future. I think, the car industry as a whole is going through a lot right now. But I think maybe more than just that, what you've given me is the sense that no matter where anyone is in their life, no matter who they're comparing themselves to, you can pick yourself up and do some pretty incredible things. It's not going to be easy, but dang, you are amazing. So I would love to take just a really quick sponsor break.
okay.
And I guess, for somebody out there that's listening that may be having a completely different situation, crisis, but feeling at their low point, just some hindsight's beautiful, right? We look back and it's easier. Like, what would you recommend for people to do who really want to go and take over whatever industry they're in? Would you do that for me after we come back?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we'll be right back.
All right.
Want to level up your confidence, your career, maybe even your coaching? Well, then head over to AmericanConfidenceInstitute.com. E-classes are there, as well as our coaching certification program, and you don't need any coaching experience to do it. However, if you are an experienced coach, you can get ICF and SHRM continuing credit. It's fast and easy. If you work in an organization, consider bringing in a kick-ass keynote or a uniquely engaging workshop. We also have team learning programs, and they all apply to both your personal and professional life, which makes them really special. They're great for ERGs, the leaders, the member programming, or really any type of professional learning and development in your organization. So give us a holler at www.AmericanConfidenceInstitute.com. We're back in, and I just feel so blessed, Jess, to have met you and have you here telling your story. And I think there's probably people who are listening that either are or know somebody that is feeling like, they're just at the bottom of some pit, whatever their pit looks like. And in looking back, I mean, first, did you ever think you'd get where you are now? Then probably not.
Um,
Or
I
did
mean,
you?
I knew that I'd be a manager at some point. This job I fell into at this level, overseeing multiple stores. And at this point, I don't really feel like I want to grow that much. I mean, if it happens, great. Um, but I did want to get to this point.
You
And
want
it,
to. So
yeah, and it took me a long time to do it, way longer than other people you'll see. Or if you in this business, I'm trying to say it nicely, but um, I mean, I've seen GMs that, are making hundreds of thousands of dollars. They barely know how to use a computer, can't write a full sentence with punctuation, and you're like, how did you get here? Like this is something I see on the regular. I'm like how did this happen when I've been working 20 times as hard as my coworkers since I started, you know, um, and and still, you know, not being treated the way that men are in very obvious ways.
well, two questions then. One being, what gets you through those moments where, like I think there's a lot of people, myself included, where I have those moments where how did that moron, right, get there? But more importantly, why, I'm here, I'm at the table. Why are you still treating me like, like how do you get yourself through those moments? Like, what is the confidence boost that you do for yourself?
I just know I am very aware of my talents. Um, I really am. I've just proven myself over and over and over again. Um, I knew nothing was going to get in the way of this from everything I went to, how bad it was at one point to where it was where it is today. I think the last store was a very good experience until the end. Um, and it's also little things at a time, like, and I want to say too, when you see women in management in the car business, they're always finance managers. So I don't want to be compared to a finance manager or a BDC manager, which is like a business development center, because those two management positions are administrative and have marketing. They're not, most people and will never see a woman appraise a vehicle like a trade-in because women are not trusted to know what a car's worth, what's wrong with it. Does it need a timing belt? You know, does it need struts? Are you able to hear those things? When I'm looking at a, let's say the other day, 20,000, 2019 Land Rover autobiography, 5 liter, blah, 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 that lists for over 140,000 new. I may give a number that's a $10,000 mistake. To this day, knock on wood, I haven't. But to be trusted, a woman to look at a car and listen to its mechanics and know what number to put on it, I've only seen another woman do that before. And that's just part of it. They weren't at this level, but we're able to do at least that because that's something you will rarely see when somebody appraises your vehicle. Um, I mean, there's such little things associated with the business that like you're not like you're always judged if you call out sick. So I've like almost never called out sick and take a vacation for 5 years because I didn't want to be the woman that called out sick because even men were judged. Men were always judged, but I especially couldn't be unless I was in the emergency room. I showed up. Uh,
So, so,
and oh no,
stop,
go ahead, start.
stop for a second because I'm like, wait, you haven't taken a vacation in 5 years. So, my second question is,
Well, not the last five, but the first five.
oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
been
Because
two.
I mean, that was the other question is now that you're there and you've kind of gotten to a place where you're like, I did it. Like, are you glad? Would you do it again?
Yeah, yeah. This has been a really good. There's definitely been a lot of ups and downs. But at this job, I've learned leadership in a way that I haven't before. So whether I go upwards or wherever I go, because I actually made more money as a sales manager than now, just because of COVID and how much money everybody made. But um, whether I go up it doesn't matter to me, but I need to like perfect my craft now in this position with leadership and with all of the just everything that I have to go through, even until this day. I
Well,
will say about MyRac that I haven't experienced the racism, the homophobia since I've been here, and that's the only place where I haven't. Because if somebody walked through the door that was Hispanic or had a Hispanic name or a name that sounded Black, most managers would raise the interest rate without knowing anything else.
oof.
And this is something that occurred at every store I've been at. And there's things now that I wasn't able to do before. Like when I became a general sales manager for the first time, shoot, I don't want it to date back to that, but I reported to a very high person, let us say, and I wasn't allowed to be in the room with him alone, ever. There was always a third party in the room because I'm a woman, and with all of the men he met with, but never me, not once in 5 years. Like there's little things like that. You're like, huh? Like
That's not a little thing. That's a big thing.
I've had bosses' wives yell at me for calling them, and been told that when I've gotten a raise, I'm sleeping with my boss. But then everyone's like, oh, well, Jess is gay. So, but that's a great excuse to use, and it's true. But even if I wasn't,
Right. Right.
even if I wasn't, but they love using that excuse works to a little degree. But like, I mean, this has happened multiple times. So, yeah.
All right. Well, again, I'm like speechless. I'm
There's so much.
it sounds like, it's like this stuff that like we think that we're so progressive in this country anyways, and let alone in the state that you and I happen to live in, which is Massachusetts. But, come on, this is not progressive stuff. So, for what it's worth, even before we got on, and you said it in the beginning too, you were like, there's been other people interested in telling your story. I want to encourage you to keep telling your story because it's fantastic, amazing, inspiring. It shows not just a sense of resilience and perseverance, but humility and a way to get something done that really is important to you in this case or the other individuals. So keep talking, keep telling your story. We're going to push this podcast out. We'll keep talking. I will keep telling people to go buy cards from you, but also to talk to you and learn from you because whether you know it or not, you are incredible. So thank you for being here today.
Ditto.
Thank you.
Seriously.
So let's make sure they know how to find you. And see, even my dog is saying, yes, yes.
Oh, I have a dog.
So first and foremost, the dealership, anyone who's in Massachusetts or near Massachusetts, you got to go buy cars from Jess. Not only is she an amazing human, but what a process making it easy and humane, which is highly unusual. So where are you based one more time?
So I'm at MyRac, the auto group, which is on Mass Ave in Arlington. I have a Chevy store, a Hyundai store, and a Genesis store. And it would definitely help me look good too, more than I don't care about the money as much. But
You want to move cars.
it would be nice to see a woman in this position raise, go up on the ranks as well. Because I'm not completely in it for the money, although that is a big part of it. But I'm just glad that you brought some light to it because I can tell you that nothing's really changed much in 18 years. And it's just weird that this hasn't been discussed more.
Well, again, thank you for everyone who's listening, who has a dream, who may not feel that they're in the best place to get the dream, but don't give up on the dream. And at the same time, keep pushing forward because people like you are the ones that make the real changes happen. So thank you for all of us. And for another reason, I love cars. So now I've got a buddy in the business. Before we totally wrap up, I want to let you know that full transcripts and show notes for this and other Real Confidence episodes can be found on www.americanconfidenceinstitute.com/podcast. I also want to remind you once again that the best way to get confidence is to give it to others. And you can do it just by liking and sharing this episode on your preferred podcast and social media channels. You can even give me some confidence by noting topics you'd like me to consider for the future. So for now, this is Alyssa DeVere. Thank you for helping to bring more confidence to the world. Master editing done by Ben Weinstein with original music performed and composed by Jeff Mitchell. Real Confidence is a production of American Confidence Institute. All rights reserved.